Hello and welcome to this review of House of Open Moons by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And yeah, there's a lot to like with this one. This is the my copy right here. I love how it crops out, but this is the copy I have. The one behind you can't actually see the full name, but yeah, this is Adrian Tchaikovsky's book. It is, in short, in summary, it's a really good book, but we're going to dive into it a little bit more. This will be spoiler free, so don't worry about me ruining anything. I'll give you a very brief overview of the plot, and that's it. So basically, there's a country called Pals, and they're taking over the world. And by the way, this is like something you find like the first two pages, so you know. And you are thrust into one of their wars, but not in the front lines of battle, but in the actual one of the hospitals they have in the war camp itself. You know, when people get injured, they put them there. And that's the story, is that how is this hospital ran during the war? Now, it's a very rare thing, by the way. You very rarely find, I feel like I don't find many books like this. It's a fantasy setting in a hospital, and I like that. That's new and original. I haven't read anything like this before, so I really liked it. I will mention that I really enjoyed the characters in this one. Firstly, the character introduction is done very well. He introduces a character. The character will like have, he tells you like what they're doing, their job. It's very well written. And then by the end, usually that character will have a conversation with someone else, and we jump to that person's point of view. So within the first 6-7 chapters, you've met sort of all the characters and you've seen all of their point of views as well. And it's done very seamlessly, where it's like, I'm talking to you, then it's you, this person talking, then they go to like another place and switches to a person working in there. And it's very well done. And I like this because I feel some books, from the beginning, you're told like, oh, there's like 7 continents. And then you see one guy in this continent, then we jump to another continent, then we jump to another continent, and then we jump into the past, and it's very confusing to follow in the beginning. Not this one though. The House of Open Wounds, the introduction of the characters is as best as you can imagine. Like, it's so easy to follow. And there's also, I believe, like in the first 3 pages, there's an itinerary of all the characters who are important. So you can, if you ever get lost, you're like, oh, okay, who's this guy? Oh, he works in this department. That's cool. By the way, this is not the first book in the Tyrant series. I believe this was called. This is actually the second book. There is one before it, which is called City of Last Chances. Now, you might be thinking, yo, do I need to read the first one to understand the second one? No, not really. No, you don't have to read at all. There's very little relation between the 2 books. There's one character in this one, and there's one character in House of Open Wounds. I should hold them both, by the way. Yeah. So there's one character in this who transfers into this, and that's it. That's all. And it's a very different circumstance that they're in. By the way, if you're thinking, well, is this a good book? I didn't finish it, to be honest. I love this one. I've read this twice. I loved it. Anyway, but yeah, so you don't have to read another book. This is book 2, but it's very independent of the first book. So you can just read it straight away. You don't have to worry about that. And this world, even though we talked about World Cup, there's a lot of magic. This is a fictional world with like magical elements, and most of the magic is tied to some form of healing. So, and that's a huge part of the drama of the book, because since we work in a hospital, the pals hate magic, but they are hypocrites who are willing to use it. And you have to see how they sort of have to like maneuver. The doctors have to maneuver around. I say doctors, but and it's really well done, the way the magic system works. Healing has a cost, and you find, again, I don't want to ruin it, but there's costs to it, and you have to balance that with what you're willing to pay. And not only is that, but there's also like a necromancer department. And you think the necromancers and the doctors have very opposing ideals, right? This one, I want them to die to fight. This one, I want them to live and heal. But they actually work kind of well together, the heads of the department. And it's really nice. Just the characters are so good. And this is why I loved it. It's a very character-driven story, and they're all wonderful to read. Which is why I didn't like City of Last Chance. I didn't really feel the appeal here. So many are sympathetic. So many are very nuanced. And they're all tied to the hospital. Each one has their own plot line. In one of them, they're using the healing to develop a new military tactic, and they don't like it. In another one, this person is lost, and they're trying to find who they are from their past, and they go to their own old city, and it's just so well done. Like the way that they're all different, but they're all connected in the story. They all have to work together. I really liked it. It's the prose is fantastic. It's one of the best. Adrian Tchaikovsky. After this book, I instantly went and opened like 4 or 5 of his books. I just bought them. I was like, all right, I love the way this guy writes. I have to go buy more of his books. And I went and bought like a couple of these. So It's really good. It's really good. I've seen some books are simplistic the way they write. This one, no, it's not like hard to follow, but it is rich in the way it's written. Where you get a lot of detail, but it's easy to understand. And I absolutely adored the ending. The ending, I mentioned that a lot of plot lines were like, they're all related to the hospital, but each one character is somewhat separated. It ties it together in this fantastic scenario at the end where you're like, oh my god, everything has like led to this. It's really well. Also, we don't stick to the hospital. We do move around the world a little bit, but again, we just keep going back to that setting. So if you like it from the start, you liked all the way. If you don't like it, you'll be like, I hope they travel and things like that. 99% of the book was wonderful and perfect. There is minor quibble that I have with the story. A minor, it's small, it's very tiny, almost insignificant. But it actually is significant because it is one of the plot lines. One of the 20. I didn't like a certain romance in the book because throughout the whole book, you're kind of being told that it's not really a romance. It's like there's some sort of manipulation, and it turns out it is, but isn't. I didn't like that one. That's the only one that struck me bad. There are other romances that I really liked. Some of them are more hinted on than in your face, but that was the one thing that I didn't like. Now, earlier I did mention that you don't need to read the other book to understand. Again, and you don't. Like I said, you don't need to. But if you do, you will benefit more. Because a couple of gods and magic system, I think they were explained earlier. Whereas when you read this book, you're like, wait, this came out a little bit out of nowhere. Again, this is very near the end of the book. Very near the end of the book. I was like, hey, that's unexpected. Then I realized it's probably been built on from book one. And as we mentioned, they're very loosely tied, but they are tied. So if you can read City of Last Chances, which is a good book, just not my thing, that's good for you. If you can't, doesn't matter. House of Open Wounds is fantastic. And I don't know how to recommend this more. I've said so many good things. It's probably the best one book I've read this year and one of my favorite books of all time. I highly recommend you read it. If you like words on paper, you generally should like this book. So hope you found this review useful. I'll see you guys next time for an update on another book or series that I'm on. See ya.